There's the experience of music remotely. We do our best, and I'm glad we got to hear that one. I approached Marion to determine what would we choose for this service, and Cecile had some ideas, and I don't know, they just nail it every time. I just really like that we opened with that, and thanks again to you guys for that one. And just so you're aware, another intricacy of these things is because we broadcast this on Facebook later, we have to be aware of copyright restrictions. So it's been very interesting, and people have worked hard to try and make something work. So thanks again. We're going now to theme conversation. This will be something quite new to those of you who are just joining us today. Just take a moment to share the screen with you again.
Ecclesiastes 9, 7-10. Seize life, eat bread with gusto, drink wine with a robust heart. Oh yes, God takes pleasure in your pleasure. Dress festively every morning. Don't skimp on colors and scarves. Relish life with the spouse you love each and every day of your precarious life. Each day is God's gift. It's all you get in exchange for the hard work of staying alive. Make the most of each one. I love this time in the church service. I wonder what our little budding Bible scholar will uncover today. Let's call them out. 1, 2, 3. Robbie!
Oh, hi, Margaret. Turn.
Robbie?
Oh, sorry, I got a little carried away there. Ecclesiastes.
Yes, about that. The reading that Mike chose for this special service today was Ecclesiastes 9.
For everything, turn. I love the song version of it.
Sure, that song does come from Ecclesiastes, but is chapter 3.
Oh, so no turning then?
No, but chapter 9 does speak of time, too. Each day is God's gift, and also make the best of every day.
Yes, I'd like this part. Dress festively every morning. Don't skimp on colors and scarves. That sounds like dress up to me. I love dress up.
That doesn't surprise me at all, Robbie. You do lots of things with relish. As the passage says, each day is God's gift. It's all you get in exchange for the hard work of staying alive.
You mean like the hard work of getting from here to the river in all this cold and snow? Brrr! And sometimes the catfish are even hard to find. A dragon can't live on spaghetti alone, you know. I need the essential catfishy oils to keep my scales bright.
Catfish. I suppose we all have different challenges as we work to stay healthy.
Where'd my Bible go? Here's a part that also reminds me of the other turn passage. The race is not always to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor satisfaction to the wise. Do you think we could make a new song? To everything, nor No.
I think you will have to work on it a little bit more, Robbie.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't have the same ring to it.
I think it is pointing out that even when things are going well, there is always the possibility that bad luck can happen to any of us.
Like that giant guy who was taken out by the kid with the stone.
I think you mean the story of David and Goliath.
Yeah, I mean, big old Goliath is lording it over everyone, all big and burly, and the army around is sure he can't be beat by anyone. They egg him on.
And with the grace of God, David put them all into their place.
The egg was on their faces then.
Nothing is certain, no guarantees. Take the best from each day and roll with the punches.
Oh, Margaret, that doesn't sound much like the other parts of the gospel and the lectionary. Doesn't God watch out for me, protect me from murderous giants?
Well, some people think that way. It's confusing. God gives us grace and hears our prayers, but some bad things happen to everyone.
The Bible says, trust in God, but tie up your camel.
Actually, that comes from a different Bible, the Quran. I think the important thing here is to expect the unexpected and celebrate the gift that is present in today. God will provide the grace to get you through the rough patches.
I just have one thing to add, Margaret.
What's that, Robbie?
Neither snow, nor sleet, nor dead of night shall keep me from my beloved catfish.
Is that your new song for chapter 9?
Well, I know it still needs work. Amen.
Amen.
Well, thanks to Margaret and Robbie for that. That's Tim Roseborough's doing. So I have to say, when the part about the bright colors and scarves, I just made me think of you, Lois. So that was cool. Now it's my brother Colin McLean who's joining us from Ottawa, and he's going to read scriptures. I asked him and he said yes instantly. So I feel lucky for that. And Colin, you'll just have to remember to unmute your mic.
Yep, I've unmuted. Good afternoon from Ottawa. It's 12:52 our time. Good morning in Athabasca, Barhead, and Calgary. It's great to share today with all you good folks and to use this as an opportunity to wish my brother Mike a very happy 48th birthday. So happy birthday, Mike. So go. Eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for it is now that God favors what you do. Always be clothed in white and always anoint your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun, all your meaningless days. For this is your lot in life, and in your toilsome labor under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. For in the realm of the dead, where you are going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom. I have seen something else under the sun. The race is not to the swift, or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favor to the learned, but time and chance happen to them all. Moreover, no one knows when their hour will come. As fish are caught in a cruel net, or birds are taken in a snare, so people are trapped by evil times that fall unexpectedly upon them. There's also James 4:13-17. Would you like me to continue with that one?
Oh yeah, please do, thanks.
Okay, so this is boasting about tomorrow. Now listen, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogant schemes. All such boasting is evil. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is a sin for them. Scripture is a song for our star seeking. And here, that's where everybody responds, I guess. Praise to Christ, the light of the world. So everyone, 1, 2, 3, go.
Praise to Christ, the light of the world.
Thank you, everyone. And again, Mike, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Uncle Mike. Happy birthday.
Thanks, guys.
Great shirt.
That's my
Calgary fans are going to be pretty happy this morning, though. It was a great game by two very strong goalies last night, and Calgary came out on top 2-0 for any Calgary or Montreal fans.
So it's good to see Michaela and Katrina, my nieces, here today. And now that you've had a dose of Robbie, maybe I can convince you guys to do one of those recordings one day with Tim. So just think about it. Now, as we head into this meditation, this would be a sermon from a minister, but I'm not a minister. So I'm just sharing personal thoughts. They are personal. So I expect that they probably apply to many of you in your life situations, if not in the details, in the broad strokes, because people are people. And it just felt like something that I would like to do today because it's my birthday and I feel quite indulged right now, but I also feel like this is a great way to remember 2021 and my 48th birthday. So again, it's great to see everyone here. Now, if you've never planned a sermon, there's, as you might expect, a sort of an itinerary over the year with suggested themes. And we're in the 4th day after Epiphany. So there is a sort of structure or guideline that there might be some focus on prophecy and the prophetic and prophets. And there is a loose connection here because I have focused on time, but I've introduced a quote at the end of this meditation from William Blake, who I studied somewhat as an undergraduate student and graduate student, but always certain things, William Blake, whose writing is not pleasant to read often, it's very dense and tortured, but this ideas about time and how we can spend our time has always stuck with me. It's been well over 20 years for me now that this one quote that I've brought in, but when we think about prophets and prophecy, I think it's as simple as there are people who at any given time in the world, in history, just they're able to look around them and identify really what's happening and what's likely to happen in the coming years. It's as simple as that. So looking around you now, any one of us could come up with some prophecies, and I guess it's our job to, whatever we're doing in each and every day, is to try and turn the curve of history in a good direction. That's all we can do in our own parts. So I just wanted to touch on that, the fact that there would be probably a message from Monica today otherwise that would be a little more adhering to what we consider for the framework of a year in the United Church. So I'm diverging from that. So in this meditation, it was my intention to focus on time, the experience of time, the way time seems to stop, those moments that we fix in our memory. I feel like that's when time has frozen and we can access it again, whether that's a year later or 20 years later. So we can stop time in that sense, but more often the way it does slip by, and we use words and language like time is like a stream and feeling like we're in that stream and it's rushing past us, or we're swimming with it, getting swept along, swimming against it. We associate time with devices and conventions that we've created to measure it for our purposes. So, you know, calendars, clocks, years, days, seconds. Do those things exist apart from us? Do you think deer, do they measure time when they're grazing or running away from the pursuit of a predator or whatever? it seems as though time is something we must have created in a sense. But it's so plain for us to see that from the time we're born, quickly time is passing and that we change, we grow up. At some point, we stop growing and we probably start to shrink a little. I guess that's what age is doing to us. We definitely feel time. It's not that it's something we could think we created by any means. But by the same token, who's to say if you're around for billions of years, we know, or people tell us, that matter cannot be created or destroyed. So there's some aspect of time that I feel we can only ever understand it in different ways and always not fully understand whatever it is we're talking about. I was preparing these thoughts and I noted that the 70 some years has passed since the idea of the doomsday clock was introduced. So this idea that now that we have nuclear weapons, there's a clock that measures how close are we getting to ending time for all people. And it seems as though we're as close to midnight as ever. So these kinds of things gave me pause. Now to fish sticks. Kind of humorously, I suppose I feel as though if Monica was here today, we'd have a full course meal with all the preparations of somebody who's spent a good part of their life, you know, reading and studying and thinking about God and the Spirit and everything, and reading passages closely in the Bible, which I am not that person. So instead of that type of meal, you get the limited palate of somebody like myself who, you know, as I share in this memory of the sorts of meals we would prepare when the kids were left to fend for themselves. And in our household, with a mom who was a nurse who took late shifts, with a father who was out and about all the time. And in this case, I'll use the example of the meetings he would attend as a volunteer firefighter in the St. Andrews area. So it would usually fall to my sisters, Anne and Karen, to coordinate dinner in those cases. Quite often, you know, I paint a grim picture here. Mom would have prepared something and told us to heat it up or whatever. But the girls were capable, so we would have decent meals. But there were times that it would be left to myself or something, because we did try to share the chores. And if it was up to me, I'm afraid to say it was usually frozen fish sticks or something of that nature. And the reason I bring this up too is just the memory of preparing a meal like this. I can't tell you a whole lot else that was going on, and I certainly don't know what was going through my head at the time. I'm sure I wasn't thrilled to be making supper, but just the experience of pulling out these things from the freezer, putting it out on a pan, and maybe you can recollect your childhood kitchen, where cupboards were, the way the knobs felt when you opened those doors, the way your stove, was it an electric stove or a gas stove, how tricky it might have been to get it lit. I remember we had a gas stove where the oven was always tricky to light, and God help us, my sister Karen went to light it, or perhaps it was her small brother Mike who had tried and then went looking for someone to help. Well, here's the gas filling up, and when she went and lit that sucker, whoomph. Luckily, it just kind of burnt her eyebrows a little, but it was shocking and scary. And these are the kinds of things that come up when I'm thinking about time, fish sticks. I'm thinking at a particular time, my brother would have migrated down to the basement because he was well into his teen years. And, you know, at a certain age, you cannot abide the company of your siblings. So he would have been hiding or you know, in his cave. And my sisters, what do people do after a school day when you're in your teen years? I suppose they were off doing their own things. So it's just this sensation of time and the kinds of things that get shaken out when you start to really think about it. The fact that perhaps someone was on the phone, and as a landline, party line phone in rural Nova Scotia, the phone time could be precious. There were busy evenings where our neighbors might be tying it up. And here I am, you know, getting out these ingredients. Frozen corn, I can tell you, is probably the co-op brand, because Dad would have gone into Antigonish to buy groceries often, and it would have been the co-op. And getting those little twist ties, I'm sure we probably kept a bunch in a little bag or a can, just as we do here at Margaret's house. There's a can of twist ties ready to go all the time. You don't throw them out, you know. And just putting these things back in the freezer. So I think about time in this case like a ghost that still haunts, you know. Time can revisit you, and it is like a haunting feeling. So again, it's my intention to focus on time today, and what is this time on our hands during a pandemic? So I have felt that there's a greasy quality to it, the way it kind of slides around my mind, perhaps yours too. You find that days and weeks go by and where we're not connecting with our loved ones, with our friends. Maybe our work situation is entirely changed also. You kind of lose your grasp. If time's like a thread, you're trying to hang on to something, but it's really hard to keep a grip on time. I don't pretend to grasp what Albert Einstein meant by his theory of relativity. I'm sure I've read some short descriptions of what it's all about. I'm quite sure it has nothing to do with what I'm focusing on here, but in some sense, I am pretty clear on this now at this stage in my life, that time is relative, and that when you think about yourself at the age of 4, I'm thinking back, that's probably close to the time I was learning to tie my shoe. And I remember in school that there were actually cards that you could practice on where you could untie and tie, and how big of an accomplishment it felt like that I got it right. Same with the first time I felt like I read my first real book, not one which was mostly pictures and the odd words or sentence, but a real book. In fact, I believe it was Ivanhoe, and I know that it came from the public library in Antigonish. So this experience of time, and how when you have nothing but new things to learn, time is not the same as it is when you're 48 and you have so much to look back on, certainly enough to, you know, keep your thoughts dwelling, but there's still time to look ahead too. I mean, it's just compelling to think how time and our experience of time changes, and that can also be situational. What's time like when you're in the city and you get a flat tire on a major thoroughfare, you know, or trouble? So this idea that time is relative and that the experience of time changes depending on the psychological state and also on age. So again, where I think about being in a certain period of mature adulthood, there's this aspect of back and forward lookingness, that we're quite aware of the time that's passed and we have things to look forward to, but I think we do reach the conclusion that time inheres in those relationships we have made and continue to make, that's where we sort of stake a claim in this stream, and it sort of anchors at some point, and then we keep moving. It's in those relationships. So in the months of social isolation, it's certainly made time tricky. I think about what has happened, what have I made of the time, and knowing that I can't recover it. So we've had a year now that we just simply haven't been able to be around friends and family. And I'm very fortunate in that with my close family, my sister, there was a health scare in the early part of the year, but we've got through it. I certainly don't know what it's like for people who have family who they can't visit, and who have limited time left. Those kinds of things are just, it's such a big part of this pandemic that we're really not able to do things that we would desperately like to. So I take comfort in, you know, I am very lucky compared to many, and I know some of you are also too. Like, we are able to be warm at this time. We have food to eat, and some of us can work from home quite easily. So all that said, I'm grateful for those things, and yet I'm still quite aware of how time is something that moves and that I'm losing over this period. And I don't know if you all can feel the same way, but that's been a big part of the last several months. But it's the case that time has always been weird. Perhaps you know the feeling of nothing but time, the feeling that you have all the time in the world, and then when you know that you're running out of time, like personally, I'm afraid to say it's all too often associated with deadlines, knowing that there's just time you didn't make good use of, and now it's too late. So either you're going to rush something to get it done, or you're going to need to come up with some excuses. And that's something I'm very familiar with personally. Now, I've touched on my father. I don't know if I can really get into that in detail today because it's still very emotional, but I think even though he knew that his life was ending, it did come as an unpleasant shock when he was told just how quickly it would come. And I contrast where my my mother, it didn't work out the same way. And ultimately, I can say that the lesson there was certainly that we don't choose our end. I feel that she was certainly able to help him with how his end came. And I think for any of you who are caring for people who are terminally ill or have had that experience, it's probably one of the great things a person can do. And anyway, the fact that we cannot choose our end, it's something that I learned in the last few years for sure. So the feeling that I have that I'm bad with time, I think wanting to do this today was to make something of this day that, I suppose 48 years ago, I was born on it. I think about birthdays as, what's the big deal? It kind of feels like you don't want to make too much of a birthday. It's you don't want to call attention to yourself, but by the same token, I feel it is a small miracle that any one of us was ever born. I'm reading a little in science now, more in a popular written form of it, but certainly the sheer luck of our existence as people on a planet here in this part of the galaxy, but just the fact that you were born against all odds, it really is a tremendous stroke of luck. And so I hope when any of us are celebrating a birthday, there are times friends and family will surprise you and plan a big party. Those are great things. My way about it lately for years now is if I want a party, I plan it. And I feel it's such an opportunity to celebrate. Yes, you're born, I'm born, like get together with friends, and believe it when I say 2022, I'm catching up on some parties and some friends for sure. So I hope you consider that too. I am bad with time. I do waste time and procrastinate. And I guess I feel time can be kind of harsh with me. I think about the fact that now in my 48th year, I do notice aches, and I do notice loss of certain things, eyesight, and the way I could handle stamina-wise that just simply isn't there. I had an email from a friend who couldn't be with us today, but he's always the kind of guy that puts things in words and always makes me think. And I think the fact that time gives meaning. Without it, what would we have? I mean, we can't imagine these things. To be a human being without time is almost, it's almost that knowing that time passes is part of what it is to be human. I think of time in that sense as a vessel that we're poured into, that it holds us. We're within time. The moment we leave the womb and till the day that we draw our last breath, time has given us something there that, you know, it's this amount and that's what you've got. And to do something with that, that's up to you. So in that sense, time is like a blessing and a sentence. I mean, as a sentence, let's face it, if you're dealing with chronic pain or some debilitating condition, moments and hours and days can seem really hard. And some of us know that very well. I'm fortunate in that it's not a big part of my life yet, but I've certainly seen it. So time can feel that way. And also as a blessing, I've left out God in this meditation. I don't really feel like I'm qualified to talk about God. I feel all of you have something personal in your understanding. But I would say that there is a way that time is definitely a blessing. And I'm sure I'm going to be exploring that in the years of my life moving forward. So I suppose it's a blessing to say we've reached the conclusion to sharing these thoughts. Again, I thank you for letting me do this. And I'd like to say that a big part of time for me is regret. Margaret, and knowing Margaret for the last 10 years now, she's certainly helped me think about it a little different. I feel as though maybe she said this, or maybe I imagine she said it, but what is the point of regret? How useful is regret? I feel like she said it in a way that is like, yeah, you know, what's regret doing for a person? And yet I cannot escape regret. I think there's a way that if I could have lived every single day of my life in sort of optimal terms, there's no way I could have done everything. And I certainly didn't live optimally throughout my years. I suppose that's a silly way to put it though anyway. Like every minute that you breathe, you're doing it as yourself, as Mike or Colin or Margaret or Jay or Sylvia or Lois. You're just being 100% yourself. But you know, I can't help but think, geez, I wish so-and-so could have joined us today, or geez, I wish I would have done that or said that to somebody. So as we prepare to share, if we feel like it, whether you want to just note where you think you've got it right, like you've done something recently, you feel really good that that's something you did with your time, or you would like to do, or wish you would have done. I would sure love it for you to share that. It's going to be messy and chaotic, but let's just try it out. And I would say personally to open things that because our community has recently lost Heather Carriel, I really didn't know Heather that well. I think, you know, there's a lot of people in your life that you see them quite regularly, but that's not to say you know them well. And we recently recognized her passing in a service. Again, it was remote for most of us. But to learn that she graduated from the U of A in the program Home Economics, I believe. I knew that Heather was a real talent with textiles, and she was our card maker artist. She led workshops. Her daughter Marilyn is a tremendous rug hooker. So there's something there that I suppose the regret is just that I wouldn't be able to say, ask her about that. I'd be very curious. Colin remembers Dulcie Metheringham. Some of you might remember Dulcie. She went to high school here, and her parents, Norma and George, and her two brothers. And so Dulcie also went through the program in home economics. So it's just something that I'd be sure curious to know more about that from Heather, and there's no way to ask her now. So I'll say that that's a regret of mine. But boy, I've felt lucky to share this time with you. I think I made great use of time today in this moment. And I'll say, go ahead and unmute your mic. And if you feel like typing it in the chat, or if you just don't feel like sharing, that's fine. But let's give it a little space to visit that way.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Rosemary.
Very good thoughts. The whole thing about time. I think with myself, I've always sort of taken time for granted. It's there, it's forever sort of thing in the, the short time of your thinking. But when I was hit with the cancer, it made me step back. And it was like, well, I got to get onto this and deal with this, and everything else stopped. And since then, I found that time is something very special. And it's something that I still take for granted periodically. But along with the time thing is gratitude. And gratitude for the smallest of things. I can be just turning the tap on for some water. And I think how grateful I am that I have water out of the farm. Small things that before I took totally for granted. I sort of look at them through a new prism. And so when I hear people say, oh, I was just trying to kill some time, it kind of hits me in the gut because, why try and kill time? Why not just enjoy it and make it rich with the things that mean a lot to you? And family and friends are a large part of that. So that's my comment on your story. And I thank you for it, because I think so often we go through another birthday and think, well, I made it this far. And we just keep on going. So thanks, Mike.
Mike, I'd like to thank you for your wonderful messages that you have given to us this morning. You do have a gift, that is for sure. Talking about time, for a few of us in the congregation, you'd never believe it, but we've been through quite a few decades in our life. And I know nobody would believe how many we've been through. But as each 10 years go by, the time just goes by so much faster. And we look now and think, oh my gosh, I'll think about something and think, oh my gosh, that's 20 years ago. And it just seems like yesterday. And to share, Mike, with you, and so nice to meet your brother on Zoom. Hello, Colin. With Mike talking about his 48th birthday, I think, oh my gosh, Rosemary and I are not getting any older. It's you kids, they're getting older, not us. And why I say this is 48 years ago, but not quite, won't be till this summer. Colin and Mike, I'd like to share with you that our oldest son, Cameron, who isn't 48 yet, but it's coming in the summer, and your cousin, Jennifer Cushing, both arrived the very same time. Now, to be looking back and thinking, you kids are all 48. How did you kids get so old so quickly? And we, your parents, haven't aged a bit. There you go. Wonderful message. Time just flits by. And Rosemary, no, we do not waste our time. We enjoy it. So there. Thanks, Mike. You have a wonderful calling there.
just a thought from what you were saying. I'm always reminded of that wonderful song from Fiddler on the Roof. I don't remember growing older. When did they?
So true.
One of the things that I wrestle with about time is sometimes dwelling too much on past and the regrets, and or focusing on the future and the anxiety about that. And I have really had to try to be very intentional about being in the present. And I don't think I'm the only one that sort of struggles with that, but it is very much about enjoying the time that I am in right now and making the most of it. And the other thing I want to suggest, as Mike approaches 50, I had kind of thought maybe that was the special birthday today, but when I was approaching 50, in biblical times, they talk about that being a Jubilee year. And that was always a time to reset everything, that debts were forgiven and land was returned and everything was rested. And that's what I did. When I turned 50 was when we moved to Athabasca, and I took that year off, and that sort of just left space for me to think about what I wanted to do in my next 50 years. But I don't know how well I did that even, but it was an intentional thought.
Here's a thought for you, Mike. When I was 48, when we were living in Crossfield, I was entering my first year of ministerial training. And now I'm retired.
Hi, it's Mavis, and I appreciated your message, Mike, and I share with you that I'm time management challenged, but I wouldn't say that I have regrets. My workaround is retiring at 54 and realizing that, I am who I am. Doesn't matter whether I'm working for pay or I'm volunteering, I am who I am, and I'm going to do what I do. And so during your service, I did do multitasking, and I put up a banner wishing you a very happy birthday.
Let's all sing.
So on that note, I think we should sing.
Hold on, just a minute. We recorded birthday song music.
Oh, good.
We were going to do it in coffee time, but before we do that,
we could proceed with the
service,
the completion of the service, and then go to coffee time and celebrate if you like. Does that sound like a plan?
Sure.
Okay. Well, we have another hymn yet, and I'll just say that that the William Blake quote from his work Milton is, "There is a moment in each day that Satan cannot find, nor can his watch fiends find it. But the industrious find this moment and it multiply. And when it once is found, it renovates every moment of the day if rightly placed." So I hope we all get our moments. The next hymn, as Bruce gets this ready, and he will go ahead and share the screen, it is Voices United number 672, Take Time to Be Holy. So it's our minute for mission segment here, and I know we're running a little past time, so sorry about that. I'll try to be real quick with this. So just for those of you joining us for today only, we do try to think in terms of local and global actions from the United Church. So what I'm sharing here is one of the things we contribute to with trying to address trafficking in this part of India, working with dioceses in that area. So that's a link you can follow in your own bulletin if you like. But locally, we also know that there's any number of things we can contribute to. We know that recently the Athabasca Friendship Center has been working to have some shelter for people who are homeless. So they've asked about blankets and towels. So that might be something if you wanted to inquire if they need any other assistance. But anyone here knows in your local situation, there's any number of things that you can contribute to. And if you feel compelled to contribute to the Athabasca United Church, that information is also in the bulletin that was shared. And for an offering prayer, I'm simply asking that we give what we can, and I know we do. And God, may you bless these offerings and lend strength to our intentions to do better every day. Amen. Now, as we leave to engage and empower our community, we have a final hymn. This is Voices United 424. May the God of hope go with us.
Bring the words up. From fear, freed us for peaceful treasures. Keep our commitment clear. Pure road restored to you. Life renewed. Let's work for peace. Share our joy with all. Working for that's new. In Christ call.
Okay.
Don't know what happened.
Guys. Yeah, we're just dealing with our times, and we're stuck with these tools and technologies, and they're always thwarting us, but we're getting in there. So thanks again for preparing those hymns. And with that, we'll quickly say with the blessings, take this moment in this day and multiply it many times into futurity. May we all go with God. Amen. And I could try and put people in breakout rooms, or we could, let's see if I can do this.